Carlton, good morning. Simon says, Marsch, yeah, there was no other decision to make, really. Where do you stand on it?
I agree with Simon. I think Leeds are no further forward a year on than when they were when he came in. In fact, I think they're in a worse position because when he took over, I think Watford and Norwich were all but gone. And, you know, I think Bielsa would have kept them up if he'd have stayed, but they made the decision to do what they did. They've come in, they've invested heavily with Marsch, and they're no further forward. I think they're in a worse situation because if you look at the table now, with 2 games coming up against Man United and Everton, you look at the teams at the bottom, I think West Ham and Wolves and Leicester will all pull away. So it will be Leeds, Everton, Bournemouth, Southampton, 3 from them, 4 for me.
Do you now seriously fear that Leeds will drop this season, Carlton?
Well, it all depends who they bring in. I mean, you know, Everton have got Sean Dyche, and I think he would have been a perfect fit for Leeds United.
Simon's agreeing with you on that. Yep.
It'd have been a perfect fit for them. And possibly a better squad of players at Leeds United if they'd got Sean. So it's who they bring in. It's going to be difficult for Leeds this season. I really do, because I think, you know, Everton, I said when Sean went to Everton won't go down. And I'll 100% stick with that, even though he's not been able to do anything in the transfer window. So it's 3 from those 4 for me. So Leeds are well in it. So, you know, it is the right time for them to change the manager, and it's who now they bring in.
Carlton, in about 10, 15 minutes, we're going to hear from Leeds fans. I'm just having a glance at the switchboard and they're going nuts. They want to come on. Most of them want to talk to Simon. I totally get that. When you look at the runners and riders, is there much to choose from here? Carberhan's not long in at West Brom, and he's been pulling up trees there. He's said to be a candidate. Ange Postecoglou at Celtic, said to be a candidate. In what direction do you think they'll go?
It's a difficult one. It's who's available. I mean, you know, Carberhan at West Brom has done a fantastic job. I mean, he's taken over from Steve Bruce and hasn't really brought anybody in until the January transfer window, and they've been on an unbelievable run now in a playoff position. It's a very difficult one now to see which managers are available without paying compensation. Very difficult. Yeah.
Simon, you rave about Postecoglou. You've employed Antipodeans in the past. You've been telling us you love their attitude. You like this guy's attitude, right?
Yeah, very much so.
So would he be favourite in your view?
He would be someone I would want to absolutely talk to. I mean, I'm not sure that this is the right time for Ange Postecoglou. I think he's still building a relationship with Celtic that will launch him into a spring pad of some other opportunities. The challenge for me is I think Leeds United are a huge football club, and I think the opportunities with Leeds United are significant. So I argue against my points. I don't see Ange Postecoglou going at this moment in time. But there's another part of me that thinks if I was Ange Postecoglou, I'd want to be looking at Leeds United in the same way that I would imagine, if the timing had been different, the challenge for Sean Dyche about who he chose for between Everton and Leeds might have been more compelling on the Leeds side of the argument, all due respect to Everton, because I think Sean Dyche might have quite fancied the Leeds job, but the timing of it didn't work out and he's ended up at Everton and he'll do a great job there. And I think he'll keep Everton up in the same way that Carlton does. The challenge for Leeds is I think they probably know in their mind's eye who they want. I don't think compensation plays a part in it. If they've spent if they spent 150 million on transfers in during the summer, and albeit a lot of that was propped up by the sales of Rafinha and obviously Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
And the notion that they're going to be sold or there's going to be a change of ownership, believe me, Radrizzani is not going to be allowing a small exercise like compensation to deter him from getting the manager that keeps Leeds in the Premier League, that keeps a sale on track.
When you talk about, I mean, I'm Scottish, I know the might of Celtic.
Yep.
You know the might of Celtic.
Yep.
My goodness, you've been up there with me.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it,
it's a stepping stone.
There are those here who would argue Leeds United, in their current state, is a more attractive proposition than, even with a global support, Celtic.
Look, I mean, again, without wanting to be inflammatory, and I don't know what Carlton feels, the tragedy for Scottish football is that Celtic and Rangers now are a stepping stone for managers. They're big clubs, they're big in their leagues, and they'll go into Europe and they'll do remarkably well, like Rangers proved. But the first opportunity, the first whiff of a grown-up Premier League football club, and most of these managers that have managed in Scotland leap.
Like Gerrard did with Villa.
And Brendan.
and Brendan Rodgers.
Right. So
to
with
Leicester.
that in mind, I'm not sure that Postecoglou is cut from the same cloth. He doesn't have that relationship with the Premier League just yet. Whilst he'll get the message and the memo that the Premier League is the best domestic league in the world, I think there's something slightly more deeper about his viewpoint on how he wants to build his career. Because I get the impression that he's got a bit of backbone and he's got a bit of integrity, and he'll leave when it absolutely suits him at the same time as when he's done the job that he was brought in to do. And he's halfway down the road of doing that job at Celtic anyway.
So really, Carlton, in other words, is it more of a case that Leeds United have got them to sell themselves to Postecoglou than the likes of Postecoglou selling himself to Leeds?
I'm not so sure. I'll tell you, I'll throw a name at you, and I know I live in Sheffield, and they won't be too happy. The job that Heckingbottom has done at Sheffield United with Stuart McCall, he's one I'd be looking at. I'll tell you that now. He's done a fantastic job. I thought they should have given him the job in the first time around when they brought the foreign guy in from Swansea, I believe. I thought they should have given Icky the job, but the job he's done is absolutely remarkable at Sheffield United, and they're all but going to get promoted to the Premier League. So I don't think Simon, it would be a massive compensation for him if he was to go.
No, but I think the change of ownership at Sheffield United gives Paul Heckingbottom, who's got a relationship with that football club and a fierce sense of loyalty, I get an impression, given the fact he's gone round the circle with it and come back in and now got the job full time, which he's merited. I think that will keep him at Sheffield United. But Leeds is a remarkable football club.
Well, I mean, Heckingbottom was at Leeds in 2018, right?
And there is that argument too. Yeah, I mean,
Simon,
go on, Carl.
Aren't there new owners coming into Sheffield United reported again now?
Second.
That's what I heard the other day. I heard the other day, Simon, that there's reportedly new owners supposed to be taking.
That's the point I'm making. Yeah, that's the point I'm making. You've got. I think it's a Nigerian billionaire that's in the process of going through the EFL fit and proper persons test that has significant amounts of money. And with Sheffield United's problems around transfer embargoes, he'll clear all that up, and Sheffield United will land back in the Premier League with a clean slate and a billionaire owner. So it kind of. But again, I still think. There's something about Leeds United, you know more than I do because you played there, but I spent time watching that football club and brought teams down there, that tells me if you get the ownership model right now that it's in the Premier League and you get the management right in the dugout, you've got a super club on your hands again.
And they've got to get it right, Carlton. You know the club inside out. They have to get this decision right this time.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, it's a massive club. And I think the problem that Marsch had as well is that he was always on a hiding to nothing coming in after Bielsa. Bielsa changed the whole ethos of the football club and was hugely loved by the supporters. So it was always going to be difficult for him, and for me, he's flattered to deceive. It's a massive club, well-supported club that could really, really kick on, and that's more to do with it that Marsch hasn't taken the club any further forward in the year.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.